Hoverboards. What did we know about hoverboards? For some, it's those futuristic, self-balancing, two-wheeled electric scooters that burst onto the scene in 2015. Capturing the imagination of people worldwide, suddenly, it seemed like everyone from celebrities to suburban teens was gliding effortlessly down the street on these sleek devices, turning heads and causing a stir. But the story of hoverboards goes far beyond this type and their sudden surge in popularity, making a reality of some people's crazy vision of the future. Apparently, the technology behind hoverboards has a rich history and a fascinating Marty McFly-style prospect for the future. So, how did hoverboards come into existence? And what does the future hold for this technology? Well, let's get started. The ideal hoverboard is similar to a skateboard, except that it does not have wheels and has the ability to levitate above the ground. As the name suggests, it is a hovering board, which is ridiculous, especially outside a controlled environment. Or is it? The first time that the concept of a hoverboard was mentioned was in the science fiction book The Hole in the Zero, published in 1967 and authored by Michael K. Joseph. However, before Michael Joseph came up with the idea of a flying platform that looked like a giant hoverboard, an American aviation engineer named Charles Zimmerman had already come up with the concept, and by Zimmerman's design, the Hiller VZ-1 Pawnee, a teeny tiny aircraft used for experimental purposes, was finally constructed. This peculiar levitating platform was developed by Hiller Aircraft for the United States military in 1955 and went on to have a successful test flight. Despite this, only 6 of these platforms were actually built due to the fact that the military did not find them to be suitable for combat. And on top of that, the existing level of technology rendered hoverboards too difficult to build for them to be commercially viable, despite the fact that they were technically feasible. And so, hoverboards were mostly disregarded for a number of years, and it looked like their popularity was waning. Then there was the well-known film Back to the Future. The notion of a hoverboard had a meteoric rise in popularity with the release of Back to the Future 2 in 1989, which Robert Zemeckis directed. In one of the action sequences in the film, Marty McFly is shown riding a hoverboard in the color pink while a bunch of bullies after him. Then, during the last 20 years, many information technology companies and specialists have worked on creating a flying board that may function in the same way as the hoverboard seen in the movie. So what is the science behind these flying boards, and is it likely a breakthrough will occur anytime soon to enable recreational use? It's never as easy as it looks. Magnetic fields and principles of quantum physics are integral to the operation of genuine hoverboards. Because of their absence of electrical resistance and the magnetic flux fields they produce, the initial stage in the process is the utilization of superconductors. The fact that superconductors have been used in projects such as the Large Hadron Collider has piqued the scientific community's attention to these materials. Because superconductors give out magnetic fields, unexpected phenomena can occur when they are brought into contact with magnets. The north-south magnetic field lines that magnets are required to keep intact are thrown off when a superconductor is placed on top of a magnet. Because of this, the magnet is able to move the superconductor out of the path and hold it in the air by pulling it. Only at extremely low temperatures, specifically negative 230 degrees Fahrenheit, negative 145 degrees Celsius, may the so-called superpowers of superconductors be brought into play. Hoverboards that are starting to appear and be developed in the real world require refueling with supercooled liquid nitrogen approximately every 30 minutes to ensure that they are able to keep their temperatures at an extremely low level. All currently available hoverboards operate using this mechanism. Even though there have been significant leaps forward in the research and development of superconductors that can operate at room temperature, this technology is not yet ready for real use. However, 30 minutes is still an improvement over having nothing at all. So what are the different types of hoverboards we have at the moment? Number 1, the vintage hoverboard. The concept of the hoverboard dates back more than 3 decades before it was featured in its most famous cinematic incarnation. In the 1950s, the idea of a flying platform was first conceived. However, it was envisioned as being far larger than a skateboard, measuring more than 8 feet in circumference. The Hiller 1031A1 was developed specifically for the military, and its designers planned for it to be flown by a single pilot with only a few days' worth of training at the most. For improved control of the aircraft's heading, the pilot may transfer their weight from side to side. Although the Hiller model's original prototype was successful in getting off the ground, it did not lend itself to being used in combat settings. In addition to this, it was found that the vehicle's peak speed of only 16 miles per hour was insufficient for many of the uses for which it was designed. But it was found that the VZ-1, which was an improved variation with more engines, had an unacceptable level of weight. So the combined initiative that the US Army and the Navy had been working on has been scrapped. 2. Self-balancing scooters. The Smart S1 is a self-balancing scooter introduced to the public by Chic Robotics in 2014 and presented at the Canton Fair. Regarded as one of the most important commercial events held in China and drew 180,000 attendees. In spite of the fact that some people and companies refer to them as hoverboards, they actually do not hover, but rather glide smoothly on wheels like a skateboard that has been turned sideways. Customers gave the device positive feedback when it was being demonstrated at the trade show. Therefore, this encouraged other companies to begin developing goods with technology that was conceptually similar to that demonstrated. When famous people such as Justin Bieber, Kendall Jenner, and Wiz Khalifa began sharing videos of themselves on one, their already growing popularity began to skyrocket. 3. The Hendo Hoverboard. Arx Parks was the company that came up with the Hendo, which they marketed as the world's first hoverboard. The project that was sponsored via Kickstarter received a total of $510,000 in donations. The Hendo was one of the early attempts to develop a levitating board that was actually successful. And even though it can only float a few inches above the ground, the Hendo Technologies creators believe it has the potential to transform the transportation industry. Compared to maglev trains, the technology known as magnetic field architecture, currently being developed by Arx Parks, is more cost-effective. Because the conductive platform does not need to be powered or have a sophisticated design, it would be easier to implement this technology in a large-scale transportation system. This would make the implementation of this technology much simpler. The Lexus Slide Hoverboard represents another style of levitating board. The device is constructed in such a way that it can float in a skating rink. It employs liquid nitrogen-dependent superconductors to create a high magnetic field. The hoverboard can only be held in place by the magnetic tracks thanks to the presence of 2 superconductors, each of which generates a magnetic vortex. Now, what does the future hold for hoverboards? Hoverboards have come a long way since their introduction to consumers in 2015, when they first debuted on store shelves. They started off as a novelty item and a cultural fad, but they were quickly caught up in safety and legal difficulties that caused the business to slow down. However, hoverboards have a more hopeful future than they have ever had before, given the technological breakthroughs and safety measures currently available. One of the most important improvements that have been made to hoverboard technology is the incorporation of a higher level of technically advanced safety precautions. In response to the initial safety concerns that were raised over hoverboards, manufacturers have begun including a variety of safety measures in their products, like anti-slip foot pads, automatic shut-off capabilities, and upgraded battery management systems. In the next few years, it is projected that hoverboards will grow into a more practical and doable mode of transportation due to developments in safety technology, battery and motor technology, new material and design technologies, and evolving perspectives toward mobility. So, what do you think about this technology? Do you think that it will keep advancing till it has a breakthrough?